Good morning and welcome everybody to this information meeting on the topic of biodiversity and the financial system, which is the new call launched by Mistra some weeks ago. At this session, you will meet me, Åsa Moberg, who is the Programs Director at Mistra, and Thomas Nilsson, a colleague of mine. Fredrik Gunnarsson, who's Chief Financial Officer at Mistra, could unfortunately not join, but you are of course able to send him any questions that we cannot answer directly to him after the meeting. At the end of the meeting, we will have a Q&A session. So please write any questions you might have in the Q&A box during the meeting. We also have a chat where we thought that you could indicate if you're interested in contacting others or interested in being part of an application, so that you as stakeholders and researchers and different researchers can get in contact as we are now meeting online. This could be one option. After the meeting, we will also send out a question to all of you. Who of you are interested in being part of a list that we will send out to everybody on the list to make possible for you to take contact with each other after this meeting. We have set the meeting time until 10:30, but the presentation that we will have first will take maybe 20 minutes. So it depends a lot on how many questions there are, how long this meeting will be. The agenda is that first, Thomas will introduce you shortly to Mistra and our general funding scheme. And after that, we will go into the scope of the current call, who can apply a little bit on the impact logic, also the evaluation criteria, and shortly about budget and economy. And after that, we'll jump into the Q&A. So Thomas, please, if you want to introduce a little bit about Mistra.
Yes, hello everyone. So I will say a few words about Mistra in general, and then, as Åsa said, she will present more information about this call and what is required and so regarding the call about biodiversity. But if we take Mistra first, Mistra is an independent research foundation. We were established in 1994 by the Swedish government. And there is an endowment that was allocated to Mistra when it started. That was 2.5 billion Swedish kronor. And we still, this is the endowment we have, the money we have. We have no annual budget or no addition to the endowment. So we use the money we have. Mistra is governed by its statutes or bylaw, where we have all the different things that we have to live up to, especially the aim. I will get back to that and show the first paragraph of these state statutes. But the main aim with Mistra, or the objective with Mistra, is to fund strategic environmental research. We invest annually around 250 million kronor, and we invest, and we have about 20 ongoing programs. Some of them are more like centers, but to make it easy, we can say we have about 20 ongoing programs. And then, or you, next slide, please.
Sorry.
And then if we take a look at this first paragraph or article of the statutes, and I'm not going to read it, but you can see that, as I said, the main purpose of Mistra is to fund research of strategic importance for a good living environment. And then there are a number of other important things mentioned in the second paragraph of this article, that there should be strong research environments of highest international class. It should be, the research should be important for Sweden's future competitiveness. And it's important also to find solutions to environmental problems. That's an important thing, not just more basic research, but it's actually research that have a purpose to find the solutions. Industrial applications when it's relevant, maybe not in this call, but in general, that's an important thing also. Next. So how are Mistra programs set up or organized? A general thing for us is that they should be interdisciplinary, involve many different disciplines, and these disciplines should also collaborate, not only work in parallel. There is also very often in a Mistra program, there are many different sectors in society working together and involved in the program, and working together also with the academic partners. So the collaboration between stakeholders and research is very important, and it's also important to establish it in a very early phase, already when you are going, probably some of you at least listening to this, you are going to write a proposal to us, then it's important to think of this collaboration already and the preparation of the proposal. And the different stakeholders and the academic partners, they form together a consortium, that there is also a contract between the partners, a consortium agreement between them. So they are really a team working together. The Mistra's program are generally quite long if you compare to other research funding bodies. So a normal program is initially 4 years. There is a contract for 4 years, and after a midterm review, there can be an extension for another 4 years. So in total 8 years. That's also that gives the program a possibility also to really establish good collaboration between the researchers and between stakeholders and researchers. So this length of the program is a characteristic of Mistra, but it's also very important to really achieve what we think is important. Next. And more about the programs then. A Mistra program has a program director or a manager that work with the program and leads it, and this is a full-time achievement, we think. It can be shared between 2 people, but it should be dedicated full-time work on this. And to a Mistra program, there is also an external board that oversees the activities, follow the activities, and make some strategic decisions also regarding especially some activities that can be added as strategic activities. So that's an important thing also. And this board is normally, mostly there are stakeholders in this board, not the stakeholders that participate in the program, but more external to the program. But there can also be people with a scientific background in these boards. Another important thing is communication and outreach in the programs, and therefore a communication officer is a requirement, and that there should also be a separate budget for communication activities. Mistra there is a requirement from Mistra to annually report, especially about the financial activities and accounting, but also every year the programs must update the program plan, the plan of the activities of the program, and also report what they have achieved during the previous year. In the Mistra program, scientific excellence and societal benefits are both important. And that's also what I've said about the consortium and so. A thing that, or questions we often get is who can participate in a research program, and there can be researchers and organizations outside Sweden, but the program host, the organization that is hosting the program, must be a Swedish institution, and that is most often an academic institution or research institute that has this role. But as I said, and that's important to notice, that research groups outside Sweden can also participate and then receive also funding through the program host, not directly from us. Next.
Yes.
If you have, yeah, then it's you, Åsa.
Yes. So we take any questions after the presentation. So going into the scope of this current call on biodiversity and the financial system, I can maybe say that when we started the process of initiating this call, we had the focus on biodiversity and looked into how could a Mistra program considering biodiversity look, and what could the scope of that program be. We looked into what's already there, what's funded already, and mainly we saw that was maybe monitoring, conservation, and those kind of initiatives going on. As Mistra is also an asset owner, we have also a lot of contact with the finance sector, and of course biodiversity is on the rise there. There's a lot of ongoing activity, but also a lack of knowledge and lack of tools. So during this process, we ended up with this call, which is on biodiversity and the financial system. We feel that it's very timely, and there's been a lot of interest for it. So what's out there now is a call where Mistra will fund with a maximum of 50 million Swedish crowns, one program. So there's the proposals will be in a competition, and we will decide on one program to fund. In addition to the Mistra funding of 50 million Swedish crowns, we demand that there's 10% co-funding from non-academic partners. So that could be from finance or other industry partners or other organizations. The scope or the purpose of the call, as I said, it's to investigate how research and innovation can support the biodiversity's needs with the financial. It's to investigate how research and innovation can support the alignment of biodiversity's needs with the financial system. In this program, we foresee that expertise around impact and policy processes is necessary. And in line with Mistra's statutes, as Thomas mentioned also, the research program shall be of strategic environmental importance. The research groups, as also Thomas said, will join together with finance industry, other businesses, civil society organizations, the public sector, or other stakeholders. So there will be one joint consortia that should send in one proposal to Mistra in the end. The scope of the current call, we've based on a background report that is also available on the web. We prepared the call, and there are 5 focus areas mentioned there, and these are, in short, biodiversity markets, integrating biodiversity into finance, building biodiversity into asset profiles, quantifying biodiversity, and governing market-based approaches. And these are 5 possible areas to include. some of them or all in a proposal, and it's also possible to add additional focus areas. So yes, and who can then apply? Research group of all academic disciplines are invited, and we foresee interdisciplinary research. Stakeholders can also be part of the application, and we expect that. And as Thomas said, a Swedish institution needs to be the program host, even though organizations outside of Sweden may participate. And only legal entities can apply for funding from Mistra. As also said in the call, we have this format for the proposal. It should be a maximum of 40 pages and include a summary in English and Swedish. It should include vision, aims, and expected impact, scientific value, and benefits to society. The management and organization should be described, as well as skills and networks. And there should be a description of the work packages and deliverables that are proposed. A separate section on communication, which is an important part of a Mistra program, and also the budget. So that should be fitted within the 40 pages. In addition to this, we allow 3 appendices and no more than this. And the 3 appendices is an impact logic. And this is a visual illustration of the impact logic that you also described in the text, but a visualization of 1 page. There is also the opportunity to include CVs for up to 10 key people and a maximum of 1 page per person for the CV. And there's also an appendix with the certificate from the planned program host. And there's no specific template for this certificate, but it's there to confirm that the planned program host is prepared to assume the role of hosting the program and to make the requisite resources available and accept Mistra's rules regarding indirect costs. And this certificate should be signed by Vice Chancellor or Chief Executive. Saying a little bit more about the impact logic, this is something we introduced to make it more easy to follow the thought of the proposal, and to also make it easier for the evaluation panel looking at the proposals to follow the idea of a proposal. And so the impact logic should be visualized, making clear the logic behind connections between activities to be performed, from results of activities, outcomes anticipated, and impact expected. And going a little bit more into each component here, the results are expected to be able to be measured and described within the time frame of the program. And the program is clearly the origin of the results. So this may be services, products, academic publications, established networks, or policy briefs, for example. The outcomes should describe what the program aims to achieve at the target group level, so maybe the finance industry. And impact describes contribution that the program aims for at a societal level. So this should be presented in the appendix as an illustration, but also described in the text of the proposal. So when we have all the applications, we will have an evaluation. And the evaluation criteria are also presented in the call text. There are 4 criteria: approach, scientific quality, benefits, and management and organization. And the approach is detailed as how far the program has a central, coherent idea and an innovative direction, as described in a well-defined impact logic. And the scientific quality is described as how well the program meets the requirement of advanced research expertise theoretical proficiency, and methodological quality. Benefits is how highly developed the collaboration with users of research results are, and which supportive communication processes and methods will be used to attain effective implementation. And then the fourth criteria focuses on the manner in which the program will be integrated into the host organization, how it will be governed and structured, and to what degree it will make efficient use of resources and integrate stakeholders' perspective from the start. And overarching potential for environmental problem solving and contribution to sustainable development are crucial in the evaluation process. So all the proposals which meet the formal criteria, they will be evaluated by an international expert panel, and there will be hearings as part of this process. The dates that are important to remember is the 20th of December. The call closes at 4 o'clock, 1600 hours. And after that, the evaluation process starts, and it's ongoing during January and February, where hearings will probably be in the beginning of February. In March, we expect that the Mistra board will make a funding decision based on the evaluation panel's recommendation, and then a preliminary program start is in June. And then short about the economy and budget. There's an appendix to the call with allowable costs where more details are given on this. There's also an appendix to the call with a budget template to be used. So it specifies allowable costs, direct and indirect. And the indirect are costs that are not program specific, but concern common resources and include premises, workplaces. And the maximum rate is 35% of salary cost for every partner that gets funding in the program. And as I mentioned, only legal entities can apply for Mistra funding. Yes, that's all I will say. And if you have questions, we will try to answer them on the economy, or we will ask you to contact Fredrik directly later on. So that was the presentation. So we will jump into the Q&A, and I can see in the chat that some people think it's a good idea to have a list of contacts so you can contact each other afterwards, and we'll send a mail on that, which you need to answer then to get on the list and to get the list.
We have a number of questions now to start with, some of them quite easy. I can take one of these. I've just answered that you will have a copy of the presentation, that we will send it to you after the meeting.
Yeah.
Then we have a question about co-funding, if it need to be in cash or if it can be in kind, and the answer is that it can be in kind. So both is possible. And in kind then is often, I also can say, that is staff from, for instance, companies that participate in activities in the program, and then they can count their time as in kind. So that's the way it works. Another question is
what do you say about the contact details?
Contact details, yeah. We didn't have a slide on that, but I think it is in the call, isn't it? Contact details.
The contact details for me are in the calls, so you can contact me, and there's also on the Mistra website. But if you contact me, I will also forward questions if they are better answered by Fredrik, who's the financial officer, or so on. So my contact details are in the call. I can also type them in the chat here now.
And to Fredrik, maybe also, you had it on a slide, but
yeah,
if you have questions about the economic activities and financial issues.
Great. And then there's a question on, can you say something about how you define who can be a stakeholder in the context of this call? And I think that's a little bit like depending on the proposal you have. So it will be somewhat relevant for maybe defining the question, using results, being part of a value chain, and so on. So not really sure if I answer this in a good way, but I don't want to point out one type, because I think it could be very many different type of actors or organizations depending on how you frame the proposal. Thomas, I don't know, do you want to add something?
No, I think that's a good answer. I mean, it depends on, and we have given some type of a stakeholder in the call text, like companies, I think, and other organizations, civil society organizations.
Yeah. I think you can think broad, and it's good to motivate. In general, it's always good to motivate the choice of approach, methods, stakeholders, and so on. So it's clear for the evaluation panel what the idea is.
So we have another question. Can organizations abroad be a partner? And I think I mentioned that, but maybe not clear enough. They can participate, but they can be a partner of the consortium, an academic partner, if they are a university department or a research institute. So that is possible. Yes,
and the only requirement is actually that the host institution should be Swedish actor. That's the main.
Yeah, and that they are well integrated. But that's important for all partners, that they are well integrated in the work and in the consortium, so they are part of it, not just receiving funding for doing something that is outside the program. That is not possible.
Yeah. And then there's a question on if there's a possibility to post question after this meeting until the deadline. And yes, of course, and it's possible to email or call. And I'm the main contact person, and then I will forward any questions. If we are planning to, we are preparing a Q&A to have on the website, but we're not finalized that then yet. And I would say that it depends a little bit on the type of question, if we would put it out there with the answer, how specific it is, or how general we think, how of general interest we think it is. So not everything will be put out publicly, and I'm not sure when this will be out on the web either. And then there's a question, what is the difference between a project and a program? And that's something we should maybe have mentioned, that our terminology is that Mistra funds the research programs. And these are like one big consortia having a joint program, and in that program they can build on work packages, or some programs say that they have projects, but they should all be integrated and have this impact logic with the activities, projects, work packages, whatever that is in the program. So maybe the term project, that's more common for other funders, and often maybe smaller research activities. So program is the term we.
Yeah, and maybe we should make it clear, if we didn't say it before, or if you said it also, that there will be only one proposal and then one program that will be funded, and then that's the reason maybe why we call it a program. Usually a funding body, they call a program within a thematic area, and then they have a number of different projects, but we will only be funding one program from this call.
And then the next question is the program aimed at Swedish biodiversity, or could we take a more global international perspective? And in this call, we have not defined a geographical scope. So we just need to look at the formulations in the call, and the purpose is to investigate how research and innovation can support the alignment of biodiversity within the financial system. So even though in the statutes we raise also Swedish competitiveness, we see here that many value chains and different aspects of biodiversity are global, and we have not set any geographical frame in that sense.
Then we have a follow-up question on co-funding, if it can also come from state agencies, myndigheter in Swedish, and it can, both in kind and probably that's most probable that it will be in kind. Cash could theoretically be possible, but I don't think the agencies in general have a budget for this, but they can participate and they can contribute with co-funding in kind.
Yes. So the idea here is that it's the non-academic partners that should contribute to the co-funding. Then we have a question of, is there a limit of the number of PIs, applicants in a proposal? So I guess like the number of partners, and there's no limit to that. And again, I think it's a good idea to motivate if you're a small number or large number and who are in there. So, but there's no limit on that. And
there's of course a budget that you also have to take into consideration. The more applicants, as in the question, or partners there will be that will receive funding, the less you will have for each academic partner.
Yeah. And the funding of the 50 million Swedish crowns is for the initial 4 years. So that's what the program that receives the funding will have a contract with Mistra on the first 4 years. And then additional 4 years is subject to a midterm evaluation that has to be successful, and then a new decision have to be made. So the focus of this call and the proposal is on the 4 years, which gets the 50 million maximum. Then there's just financial system. I'm not sure if Mark Edwards, if you could please specify your question. So then I'll try to answer it. Yes, and I see in the chat, do you include financial media in the notion of financial system? I'm not sure if I understand the partners you put together. That could be very, very broad and needs to be connected to the idea of the call, and could include this, but I'm not really sure if I get the question. So please maybe specify a bit more, or Thomas, do you get it better? It's in the chat.
No, yes, I see it. No, I'm not really clear on what you mean with financial media. So please specify.
And then also in the chat, there's a question, but please put them in the Q&A, but I can take this. Is it possible to contract consultants, or does all actors need to form part of the consortium? And I think we have this in some programs, but I think this might be something to discuss with Fredrik Gunnarsson regarding in which cases and how this could be done, Thomas.
But it depends on what type of activities it is. If it is more like doing some calculations or analysis or so. That is not really research, more something you need to support your research. Maybe that is possible to then have it as a contract with a consultant. But the details on how you should have it, put it in the budget, that is something I think you should discuss with Fredrik, our financial officer.
It's a question on the 4 and 8 year, and the proposal is for the first 4 years, and then in general you should have a kind of a view that it could be. So what's actually the phrase in the call text is that program planning should cover 4 years, but with an 8-year perspective. So the idea is that we should see that there's a potential for an 8-year program, but the proposal should cover the 4 years with the work packages, deliverables, and so on. That should be for the 4 years. Any statistics to share how many applications you have received, similar size, or do you have? Yes, in general, we don't get very many applications compared to other funders, since we require these large consortia and there's only one program that gets funding. So I think the last call we had, then we had many applications, and that was 11. So I would say that we would guess that we get like 4 to 6 applications. Thomas, what do you say for this call?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say actually, but if we
say
that
in that area,
yeah, in that area, and maybe up to 10 we have received in other calls at least.
11.
11 then, okay. About 10.
Yeah. And then there's a question: the intersection between finance and biodiversity is still a rather small community. How do you select the international evaluators in order to avoid conflicting interest? There is a high likelihood that many of the people in the forefront will be invited to participate in at least one of the applications. Yes, that is a challenge for us, and we don't know before the applications has arrived who would have a conflict of interest, but we will put together a panel trying to choose people that don't have much contact with Swedish researchers and actors. But then when we have the applications, we will also check, and if there is a conflict of interest, then they cannot be on the panel. So then we will need to find another person there. And we can also, it's likely that we will in the panel have someone on finance and someone from biodiversity, and they will have to jointly make decisions. So we will not only have the perfect finance and biodiversity person, but we can also take in different actors. And the evaluation panel will also consist of both academics and stakeholders. So it's a challenge, but we will handle it.
Then we have received now a clarification about what financial media is and or what MARC means, and that is newspapers and broadcasters that deal specifically with the financial and business news and issues. Yeah, what do we say, Åsa?
Yes, I think here it's a matter of looking at what's the environmental challenge addressed, and how could you best find solutions, who needs to be in the consortia, and if you see that these are important actors, stakeholders for your proposal and the activities that you want to have in there, I think that you can justify this. So we don't have a specific list who's in, who's out. So my answer is more that there can, of course, also be other stakeholders which are not in the financial system as such that will be important as stakeholders. There could be. So it's more that you need to motivate who's in there and why. Don't know, Thomas, if you agree.
I agree, but I think it's good to think very, very broad as you do now, and financial media. Maybe we have not mentioned it, but it could potentially be an important partner or participant in a program, I think.
Yes, it's we have not specified much, but we leave it for the consortia and for the people writing the proposal to formulate the idea and why you have chosen the approach. That relates maybe a little bit to the next question. Also, can you specify the financial system a bit more? Do you mean banks, taxes, subsidies, etc.? Can be good with some clarifications. And there is a background paper with much information, and that's only used as, what do you say, we use that as inspiration for the call, but it's the call text that would be the basis for the evaluation. So in there is the information that is provided for everyone applying, and also for the evaluation panel. And we have not a predefined. We don't have a definition as such what's included in the financial system. It could be, I would say you should have a broad scope there, and motivate it, and look at the call text. What's the focus, and what's the evaluation criteria. I can't really say more than that. Thomas, what do you have any other?
No, I agree. Then we have a question on innovation, and I would say, if we say or define innovation as not only technological innovation, but social innovation also, that innovation is important and that points also towards the direction of finding solutions and solving problems, and in that way innovation is important. It's not just understanding the system is not enough. It should also be a part that is problem solving, and that is innovation, I think. Or do you agree, Åsa?
Yes, and then major changes are needed. So I would say that's an important part, but you can use different words. So I don't know. I don't think maybe innovation as a word is mentioned more than in the explanation of the evaluation criteria, perhaps. But of course that's an important part. You can also have the question now, but technological innovations is included. You could have that. You could also focus on something else. So it's not predefined, but it's within the scope, and then you can choose how you frame your program within that broader scope.
So, do we have any more questions in the chat?
There are a lot of contact information there, so maybe, Thomas, we can gather this and also send it to all the participants, the information that's in the chat, and then we'll ask all of you also who would like to be on a list that we will circulate among the participants. So if you have any further questions now, just please put them in the Q&A, and as we said, you're very welcome also to contact us after this call, of course, and during the process, probably you will come up with new questions as you proceed in writing the proposal. And Fredrik Gunnarsson also is very happy to support you with more information on the economy and budget things. So we're looking forward to interesting applications in December. And yeah, thank you so much for joining this call. We will have the link open a little bit longer so that you can put any messages in the chat for a little bit longer. But we end the Q&A session by this.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.